On Monday, Dr. Brittany Kobia, a physician in Alabama, said that all of the patients in her hospital who are dying right now, 100% of them are unvaccinated people. And she said one of the last things they do before they're intubated is beg me for the vaccine. These are people who are, in all probability going to die. She says, I hold their hand and tell them, I'm sorry, but it's too late. Meanwhile, over at Fox News, starting in June of this year, last month, they instituted a vaccine pass. They call it the Fox Clear Pass, where you have to prove that you're vaccinated to get into the building and interact with other staff people. And if you don't, then every day you have to be tested for COVID. Meanwhile, Emmanuel Macron, the president of France last week, said, okay, that's it. You can't go to bars, restaurants, sporting events, anything, unless you can prove that you're vaccinated. They've got an electronic essentially a vaccine passport over there. And I thought this one particular line, somebody challenged him on this during a press conference, and he said, I am in favor of the French line right now. I no longer, in other words, people were saying, well, other countries don't mandate vaccine passports. He says, I'm in favor of the French line right now. I no longer have any intention of sacrificing my life, my time, my freedom, and the adolescence of my daughters, as well as their right to study properly, to those who refuse to be vaccinated. This time, you are staying at home, not us. So, should we have vaccine passports in the United States? Should we mandate vaccines? On the line with us is Julio Rivera, editorial director of Reactionary Times, contributor to Newsmax, American Thinker and Townhall.com, reactionarytimes.com, and on Twitter. Oh, yeah, it's Julio. Julio, welcome back. So, ready to mandate vaccines?
No. I mean, there was a Saginaw, Michigan kid, 13 years old, that just died recently after taking the second dose of the vaccine. And listen, obviously, that's a rare case.
Hey, listen, there was a guy here in Oregon who died the other day after drinking milk.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Listen, the far majority of these cases with COVID, over 80% are asymptomatic. I know that a lot of people were criticizing the vaccine because of how fast it was produced. There's arguments on both sides of that, obviously.
There are no arguments on the other side, Julio.
No, there are. Because
people who are vaccinated are not dying, and when they do, it's so rare that it becomes the exception that people like you can point to. But 99% of the people, 99+% of the people who are dying right now, and 97+% of the people who are hospitalized right now are unvaccinated. We do know that, Julio.
Listen, that's fine. You're citing examples from one doctor. The fact of the matter is,
I'm citing examples from the Centers for Disease Control.
Yesterday, between Dr. Fauci and the exchange between Dr. Fauci and Dr. Rand Paul, if there's gain-of-function research being done in that laboratory, we still don't know a lot about
which has nothing to do with whether we should be vaccinating people.
Whether or not this vaccine is even effective against it. There's people that are getting sick after the fact, and there's all kinds of reports going back and forth. I actually just read something that was published by a British university saying that the antibodies persist in your body for up to 9 months after you've actually had it and already are over COVID-19. So listen,
but the flip side of that, Julio, is that the Delta variant will reinfect people who have within the last month had the first strain or even the alpha strain of COVID. That the Delta strain.
So are we supposed to get vaccinated, indefinitely? Just every year we're going to rely on these vaccines that are rushed out to market.
If you want to live,
completely properly
and keep in mind, about 20% of men who have had symptomatic COVID never ended up in the hospital, never died. But 20% of men who have had symptomatic COVID, the major long-term side effect of it is erectile dysfunction. Doesn't that alarm people on the right?
Listen, it's a bad thing, I guess. But listen, there's as far as
the vaccine would prevent that.
Mandating people to take a vaccine, which they don't necessarily feel comfortable with what went into developing the vaccine. That's the problem I have. You're a liberal, Thom.
Okay.
Are you supposed to be all about choice? If I don't feel
so let me back up from that, Julio.
Why should I be forced to do to travel around?
I'll give you that. I'm not, I asked the question, should we be mandating vaccines or should we be doing vaccine passports? I am not specifically suggesting that we should be mandating vaccines, although I think that, within a month or two or three when these vaccines finally get FDA approval so that they can be mandated by schools and other institutions like measles is and smallpox and things like that, they should be included in that. But for right now, I would like to see a vaccine passport. We've got this, what is it called, V-Safe, I think, V-Safe over. The CDC has a vaccine passport system all in place. All they need to do is push a button. I actually signed up for it. New York and California have actually rolled them out. The Empire Passport Pass in New York. I don't know what it's called in California. But bottom line is, Louise and I, the only restaurant that we've gone to in the last month or two since we've been reopened, has been two restaurants have been restaurants that have large outdoor seating areas where we can sit 6 feet away from people, because I don't want to get the Delta. Even though I'm fully vaccinated, I could still get the Delta variant and end up with long COVID, and it's not going to kill me, but it could make me really, really sick. I don't want that to happen.
Exactly. It depends on
if a restaurant was to have a sign that said, "You will be checked for your COVID vaccination status," just like they check to see if you're 21 if they serve alcohol.
That's their right as a private business. They can
I
do
would
that.
start patronizing that restaurant.
Yeah, and that's your right to feel that way. Listen, I personally have not gotten the vaccine. My daughter has an autoimmune condition who's 18 years old. She had to get it. And my mother, who's 80 years old, got it, and I feel good about both of them having it. I personally don't have any issues, so I haven't had it. I think, like I said, it boils down to choice. If private businesses want to mandate, and they were doing this in baseball stadiums, they were having vaccinated sections and things like that. If they feel the need to do that, you can go ahead and do that. It really is a matter to me that people have to go ahead and kind of figure out what's right for them, whether it's businesses, whether it's individuals, and that's okay. But once you start saying that you can't go in and out of the country and they stifle your ability to move around the world, that's a problem. I'm a multinational myself, and I wouldn't want to see, that I have to be forced to get a vaccine in order to go back to Europe. I'm back in the United States now, but I'm leaving back to Europe in a matter of a couple of days, and I go back and forth, obviously, to see my kids. I don't want to have that issue.
Yeah. I believe Canada is requiring proof of vaccination when they reopen their border with the United States, I think on August 9th. I could be wrong on that, but so you're okay with individual businesses saying you've got to prove your vaccine status to come in if they decide to make that choice. Why
exactly, because liability insurance, they may affect their costs depending on how they handle COVID.
Absolutely.
Going forward,
so why not schools?
We don't know how a lot of this is going to play out. Yeah.
Why not schools?
No, if it comes down to where those brand new vaccines that were kind of hastily put together, and granted, it was based on a lot of the research that was done on SARS, and that's what I was saying, that there's good arguments on both sides of the vaccine because, it is newer, but it was based on older research.
It's a 20-year-old vaccine, really.
If elements of it are, and elements of the research that was used to develop it are.
Sure.
If schools go ahead and do that, what are you going to do? I mean, unless you want to send your kids to a non-vaccine mandating private school or something like that. If you can go ahead.
Well, that happened. I mean, there was this Catholic school in the news a couple of days ago where they're saying we will not accept any children who are vaccinated. Actually, it wasn't a Catholic school. It was some right-wing Protestant school, a religious school. Because don't you know the vaccinated people can spread the spike protein or some weird, QAnon theory.
There's a lot of things going on right now, good information and bad information. Ultimately, like I said, it depends on the individual. I'm not getting the vaccine until I feel that compelled to do so. At this point, I don't. I think it's more of a risk to me to take it than to not take it. I trust my immune system.
Okay, well, good luck with that, Julio. I hope you don't end up with permanent limp dick disease. I'm assuming I can say that on the radio.